What's going on out there? What's going on, Manuel? Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Appreciate your patronage. Well, got to talk about the Trump tariff apocalypse. And, I mean, dude, I go on Facebook, right? I go on Facebook, and all of these leftoids who... they don't like capitalism. Like, I mean, I've literally... So, let me give you a little background on this. For a while, here down in Tampa, I was trying stand-up comedy. So, I went into the comedy scene, and... I did some open mics. It was a good time. Really, the pressures of work and... just not having really time to do it took over. That's why I don't really do it anymore. I work 3:30 to midnight. I don't have time during the week to get out there. Anyways, what's amazing is you can get like a general feeling of the zeitgeist amongst the leftoids. I say that they're leftoids because they're actually leftoids. I've had a couple of guys on there talk about how they dislike capitalism, which is the funniest part of this whole thing. So, Facebook is abuzz with the libtards trying to own the MAGA chuds, saying, see, this is what happens. We warned you about this. Trump is the worst thing ever. See, he's tanking the stock market. And I'm just sitting there looking at it, thinking to myself, aren't you the same group of people that think there should be a $50 an hour minimum wage and who dislike capitalism because it forces you to work? Unlike, communism where nobody has to work. It's just, you're going to have to work one way or another, whether it's capitalism or socialism. You're just not going to have shit under socialism. So... all these people, they're freaking out. They're showing like screenshots of the Dow and everything. And I'm just sitting there and I go, how do you know a psyop is going on? It's like, this is a psyop. These people are so easily psyoped that a slight dip in the market, a slight dip, we're down, what are we down? 12%? From the high, something like that, somewhere in that area. The S&P was still in 5,000 territory. And I'm just sitting there and I go, you guys have a long way to go. I've been warning about this for years. Personally, I think there was a lot of Fed intervention in 2022. The markets were down 30%. In 2022, we almost had Jeremy Lefebvre back down at the truck stop, chugging on an unwashed trucker's cock. But the Fed intervened, which is the mother of bad ideas. We got into this in the 80s, where they were like, we just want to put a floor under the stock market. Yeah, that's not going to create a moral hazard or anything. It's not like right now they're talking about making bailout provisions for the hedge funds who got overly levered up during an irrational, exuberant market. It only took the Fed 10 years to reinflate asset prices after the great financial crisis. And yeah, Gil, yeah, dude, this is not, listen to me, Bubby. Listen to me, Bubby, on the margin thing. You don't take leverage in an irrationally exuberant market. This is what actually led to, contrary to a lot of people's thoughts on this, but the people jumping out of windows during the Great Depression weren't actually like normal people. They were people that took on leverage. They had borrowed on margin because we all know, like, history just repeats itself. It's like irrational markets. Everybody's going to get rich. Nobody's ever going to have to work. Stocks are just going to go up forever and ever. And that's how it works. Don't take on margin. If you're watching the stock market, I'm going to tell you exactly when you can start taking on margin. The historic low of the S&P 500 is about it's about a price to book of 2. So when you get somewhere in that area, if you must play with margin, that's when you start taking on margin. Because that means the market's dipped, it may be down for a while, you're probably not going to get margin called at that point. Play with, the toys the gods give you at that point. But I just look at everybody, and the media is the absolute worst. You got this effing retard, James Cramer is out there. Remember, this is the same dude that told you during the GFC, he said, Bear Stearns is a buy. Does this sound like a guy you want to listen to? I don't know who has a worse record, Jim Cramer or Jeremy Lefebvre. I wouldn't be surprised if Jeremy Lefebvre, any credibility that CNBC has or had should be out the window the second that you have Stock Slow on there. Yeah, CNBC had Stock Mo on there. And I was like just bizarrely looking at this, and I was like, okay, one of two things is true here. Either you don't care that Stockmo is an absolute clown, or you don't know that Stockmo is an absolute clown. And in either one of those scenarios, you shouldn't have listened to CNBC. It's like, dude, why should I listen to you guys? You have Jim Cramer on there, and then you brought on Stock Slow. And like all these people, they're acting like a small dip in the market. And also, we're on pace to have a bad day tomorrow. But look, I'm going to throw it out there for people. Right now, about the fair value of the S&P 500 is about 3,000. It just depends on how you're calculating it. But when you run the numbers, it's generally going to come out to the same thing. So, you can either use a proportion, right? Take the Buffett indicator, okay? Right? Wherever you put the number, it doesn't matter. Just do a proportion on this. Take the Buffett indicator. If the Buffett indicator's on the top, put the current S&P 500 on the bottom, okay? Revert the Buffett indicator to 100, okay, on the other side, and then mark what the S&P is at as your X. That's an easy way to solve for it. Another way you can figure this out is you take the book value of the stock market, which is actually going to go down during a recession, okay, because remember what book value is. Shareholder equity less preferred equity divided by the shares outstanding. If you do that, use a multiple of 2.85 or 2.88. It's on Google. There's some disagreement about where it is, but it's somewhere in that area. Multiply it. You'll come out to 3,300. Okay? Take another way to calculate what the S&P 500 is worth. You're going to take the earnings per share and you're going to use a multiple of 15, 16, 17. Somewhere in that area is about where the stock market is traded. You can use this method to figure it out for the Dow, the Wilshire 5000. It doesn't matter. You're never going to hit exact fair value, but you have a general idea of where you are. Personally, I like the Buffett indicator for this one reason. I can just look at the Buffett indicator and I can go, all right, it's overvalued. Fair value is somewhere where you're going to get the best return, about 0.75 to 1.25 on the Buffett indicator is going to be somewhere about your fair value. There you go. Go from there. And an irrationally is irrationally exuberant as the market can get, it can get irrationally pessimistic. And that means stocks are the worst thing ever to be in. Again, it's the Peter Lynch cocktail party. If you're unfamiliar with it, Peter Lynch goes to a cocktail party. If he tells people what he does, and they go, oh, that's interesting, that means the stock market is about fair value. If he goes to a cocktail party, tells people what he does, he works on Wall Street, if he gets a stock tip, he knows that the market is overvalued. And if he goes to that same party, tells him he works on Wall Street, and they say, oh, I feel sorry for you, stock market is undervalued. Now, what the exact value of the stock market, you could never figure out what fair value is, because again, value is relative to the needs and wants of the observer at the time. So it would be different for everybody. But when you get into about your 15, 16, 17 price to earnings ratio, use that for the stock market. I'm sure that there's somewhere out there they've calculated the free cash flow per share. That's a better metric when you're looking at stocks. Operating cash flow and book value is even better. Okay. So, I mean, what's the point of all this pish I'm throwing out here? The point is, these people have not even begun to see a market correction, and they haven't even begun to see a market correction, and they're freaking out. This tells you you're still in a massively irrational market. So the mainstream media, what you have to understand is it doesn't matter what the subject is. The mainstream media parrots the moneyed interests behind it. Okay? Wall Street benefits from these irrationally overpriced securities and equities. Also, the government is now dependent on asset prices. Okay? One of the ways they trick the general populace. To use an example from the housing market. We know from observation and history, capitalism is deflationary. Okay? Now, in a housing market, you're never going to get a perfectly capitalist system. It's just not realistic. There's finite places to build. There's, finite space in the city. Some people want to live in the country. Blah, blah, blah. All that BS. But the government benefits when it's reporting its GDP from asset prices appreciating. And it tricks the general public into believing the economy is better than it is. You and I, as regular people, sometimes I look at the comments and they distract me. As regular people, we know the economy has basically been shit under the 4 years of Biden. Okay? We know he was juicing the numbers. Most of those, the non-farm payroll, most of that was government employees, government hires. Trump is letting people go from the government. Government spending is factored into the GDP. Okay? That government spending distorts reality. Personally, I think a better metric is gross national income. Okay? That's tougher to fudge. GDP is easy to fudge. That's why economists in the government like to report on it. GDP is bullshit. And we know that. Like, look at England, okay? Why do you think they're bringing in so many migrants? Do you think? I mean, it's a multi-pronged reason, but I'm saying one of the factors in why they're bringing in the migrants is number one, the government has to spend money on migrants. Okay, so that money filters into the economy. The GDP goes up. There's more people working, but these people get paid less. It also depresses labor. It also depresses wages. This is another reason why the elites like unfettered immigration. Okay? Because, I mean, think about it like this. It's not lawyers that are coming across the border. It's not doctors. It's not MBAs, with their fake credentials sitting in their offices doing nothing. These people who come over here, they build. All right. So we got all that. But one of the reasons why they're battery farming these people, and it was the same thing under the Biden administration. Biden administration is spending a ton of money. Spending money on things like things on airfare, hotels. All of this money filters in the economy, right? Raises GDP. Also, the migrants, they then work for less, and that depresses wages. Okay? So these numbers have been fudged. The economy is shit. A lot of people tell me, they say, Jay Nagy, the stock market is forward looking. You can say the stock market is forward looking, but the stock market is actually rear view mirror. Think about it. What percentage of the population owns the majority of the stocks and bonds and all the other assets? It's a ruling class. Okay? These people are insulated from the economy. So, when I'm going into the store to get my blackberries and my eggs, I notice when things go up. Like today, I went to Publix. Probably should have went to Walmart, but whatever. I went to Publix. I got my standard shit that I get for the week. All said and done, I was spending, before the COVID crisis, probably about $90 to $110 a week on groceries. Now I'm spending close to $200. I mean, I don't even understand how families out there with kids, I don't even understand how they're even able to feed their family. Like if I had a family of 4, I bet I'd have to spend $500 a week on groceries. 2 G's a month on food. I mean, I would have to change up how I ate. I'd probably have to go to that, plebeian diet of sugary shit and seed oils, so I get cancer, so I then have to go into, even more money from me. But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. These people freaking out, they either got psyoped, which I've come to the conclusion, the left, people in general, are easily psyoped. It goes back to, dude, during the war on terror, the GWOT, right? I would sit there and explain to my family, they're all conservatives, I would explain to my family that Saddam Hussein was not working with Al-Qaeda. I would say everything that we have been told about the war in Iraq is a lie. And they would get mad at me. And I'm looking at them and I'm going, I'm in the military. Okay? I'm in the military. I'm telling you, it's all a lie. They'd get mad at me. But the left, the people that are left on the left, are the most easily psyoped people on the planet. I ran into this on Facebook when all these people were telling me that I needed to lock down over a disease with a 99.98% survival rate. And I'm just sitting there asking questions. And I'm being skeptical. I even posted on my Facebook, screw this unconstitutional shit. Don't lock down. This disease isn't what they're telling you. Right? I got attacked. The same people that attacked me are the same dumb shits going to the Trump protests around the country. Okay? So these are the same people that, again, got psyoped by George Soros and Reid Hoffman. Of course they're going to get psyoped on the stock market. I mean, they don't know anything about it, but yet, it goes back to dumb people think they're smart. Smart people know they're dumb. That's just the way the world is. You wonder why all these dumb shits in the media, they get where they are? You wonder why? Again, it's because dumb shits are the first one to offer their opinions. And then they get mad at you when they're... The AI bubble. Here we go. Let's go with that in the stock market. Me. We don't know how AI is going to play out. Okay? Now, you can sit there all day long and you can pretend like you're the smartest person in the world and you know how AI is going to work out. I'm telling you, you don't. I'm just telling you that. You don't know how anything is going to work out. This is why you want a margin of safety in investing. This is why, ideally, you want to buy $1 for 95 cents. Okay? That means buying stuff when it's irrationally undervalued or even at fair value. All right? Because you don't know what that company is going to do in the future. There could be fraud buried in the financial statements. That's why you have to look at them. Management may have made a mistake. There's so many things that can happen. That's why you want this margin of safety. Be very careful with your NVIDIA stock. Here's why. I'm just going to tell you why. At a certain point, these companies are going to realize that they overinvested in AI. This is a cycle that plays out over and over again in the stock market. People think they know what's going to go on because they infer their own bullshit. We're all going to have insert celebrity sex dolls. Nobody's going to have to work. Robots are going to do everything and AI is going to think for all of us. Okay, well, let's ask some questions about that. Do you know that? Because I've heard all this before. Heard everything about AI during the tech bubble. You can go back, look at their 10Ks. Do me a favor. You doubt what I'm saying here. Look up Oracle's 10K from like 1999. I'm not going to do it right now. Maybe I'll do it later or another time. Then read it side by side with, say, NVIDIA's 10K today. It reads almost exactly the same. Now, let's use some more recent stuff. What was happening in 2020 and 2021? Every company was a technology company. Somehow it was a green company because that's all that was in vogue. Because the average person is tricked by the market cap. Stock go up, good. Portfolio go up, good. That's what most people know. And that's how you got yourself in this situation. You got yourself in this situation because you have a bunch of people that don't want to do their homework. And that's who I'm generally calling dumb. I don't think you're dumb if you have a low IQ and you really think things out and you really study. I think you're a moron when you just assume you know everything. Look at Meet the Kilmers nuked his channel. Why? Because he got margin called. He knows what's coming. Or he's not, maybe he doesn't know what's coming. He's unsure. And again, I don't even know if there's not going to be a rebound in the stock market. All of this, the stock market, we could have a historically bad day on Monday. Then Tuesday, because Pavlov's dogs are trained to just buy the dip, Tuesday, we could have the greatest stock rally in history. And then it could crash the next day. Nobody knows. That's why I find it so ridiculous, man. The cycles play out over and over again, and it's actually amazing to me. I just go, you guys ever actually, like, look at a historic chart of the stock market? After the Great Depression, the stock market traded sideways for something like 25 years. After the Nifty 50 in the late 60s, stock market didn't do anything for 15 years. After the tech bust, stock market didn't recover. The NASDAQ didn't recover till like 2015. So, I mean, it is what it is. You know, I personally, I think it's hilarious. I just hope your average MAGA chud, and I would be a MAGA chud too, but I just hope your average MAGA chud doesn't just look at their 401k and go, oh, I had it better under Biden. You had a fake economy under Weekend at Bernie's. God. It is what it is. Let's do some comments. See if I can get to Nina Jankowicz, who I find to be the most insufferable human being I've ever seen. Manuel, what's going on, bud? Thanks for the comment. Dex, Ryu, strong Ryu to you guys. Thanks for coming. The tariff apocalypse. Yo. Good evening. Started buying. Yeah, I covered that one, man. Yeah, dude, just wait. Just wait, dude. If you want to take on margin, the average irrational market lasts for 5.6 years. How long this one will stay irrational, I have no idea. But this is what I was warning about. When you get into these high valuations, it's a long way to the bottom. It's a long way to the top when you want to rock and roll. Hey, caught your live stream. Hey, man, thanks for coming through, dude. Appreciate it. Appreciate anybody coming by and watching. There's always mouthpieces for Wall Street banks. Buy. Always. Jimbo Tom elect. Yeah, no. I agree with you. It's just, look, it is what it is. A lot of the stock market relies in people making money. It relies on arbitrage. So, of course, they want to keep the average person ignorant. But on some level, I sit there and I look at it and I go, I knocked my cord out. I did. Is this thing? Okay, we're still picking it up. Whatever. Knocked my cord out. Give me a second. Keep doing that. I gotta stop doing that. It'd help if I wasn't going blind. Anyways. There we go. I don't know if that'll change anything. Whatever. This is a bare bones operation. But, yeah, it relies on some level of ignorance. And, but at a certain point, I run out of sympathy for people. Because I'm a person, I hate when people use that saying, but I like to do my homework on things. If it really actually matters. So, something as important as money in your retirement, you would think the average person out there would go to bogleheads.org, just read a couple of books. You don't have to become an expert in this stuff. You just have to know. And if you just have the basics, and this is what I stress on my channel, you don't need to go above the basics. You don't need to be doing some wacky technical analysis with these complicated Excel sheets. You need to know some basic metrics. You have to have some familiarity with the financial statements, and you're good to go. Understand how to calculate about the fair value of your portfolio. Know that dollar cost averaging will be successful in the end. Stop stressing about it. The market does what it does. But, you know, again, I get it. It's the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. There's no ethical consumption. There's no ethical, yeah, basically, that would be pretty much it. S&P's around 4,990. Let's look at what current Buffett indicator I think was 188. As of, Jesus Christ, I don't need you to tell me what it is at 170. So we're at 170%. Personally, I think you got some distance to go. Again, like, you know, and if you just, easiest way, current book value of the S&P 500 today. I didn't ask you that. Current price to book value is current book value of the S&P 500. Why aren't you giving it to me? What is the book value? Yep, 1166.35. So if you multiply that times 2.85, online calculator, times 2.85, you get about 3,300. So right around there is probably about somewhere around fair value. If it drops to like 3,500, it's still right around fair value. But if it gets irrationally pessimistic, that's where the problem's going to be. Now all the grifters are going to make videos with fire and a howling soy face on the thumbnail. 100%. I heard Jeremy already turned off the comments. Let's double check on that. See, did Jeremy LaFave turn off comments on YouTube? We got to check that out. Find education. Yep, stock market is in free fall. And see, yeah, all right, he didn't turn off the comments, but whatever. Yeah, no, that's already what they are. See? Let's look. There you go. Soy face. Yeah. That's about par for the course. Dude, that's what... And the grifters, you know, look, we almost had them defeated. We know they'll come back in an irrationally overvalued market. But Jeremy almost had to sell his house during the downturn in like 2023. And that's where I'm hoping we get back to. I'm hoping that I see Jeremy on OnlyFans, you know, and it's just truckers coming into his room. Maybe some hard-hitting, you know, union guys want to get a little AP before they go back to whatever, digging oil out of the ground or whatever they do. But yeah, that's where I want Jeremy to be. But, again, it is what it is. Uranium is at fair value. That's why I'm using margin. I get it, Booby, but it's not. It was holding up, but didn't spare it, unfortunately. It's not a good idea to take on margin during a bull market. We're not there yet at the bottom. Nobody needs $1 billion. That's why I trust the government to tax all the wealth, because the government is honest, prudent, and great at managing finances. Yeah, right? That's basically, dude, that's basically every leftoid. Like, Sam Cedar, okay, one of the most soy-infused individuals in the world. I think if you tried to test Sam Cedar or David Pakman's, blood for testosterone, it would come up 100% estrogen. Yeah, Sam Cedar was basically on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, I don't know, a while ago. He came back on, but I can't stand that dude's smug face. Like, every time I just see that guy's face, I picture him getting eaten by a saltwater crocodile. Or, I don't know, there's a Sri Lankan woman that just got ate by a 26-foot reticulated python. I picture that python crushing the life out of Sam Cedar and me cackling maniacally in the forest. But yeah, dude, he was on there. And every time it came to the subject of taxation, it was always anybody richer than me should be taxed for all their wealth. And it's like, I look at the people that say this, and I go, they're like, you shouldn't take the side of billionaires. Like, all right, well, my problems with Jeff Bezos, notwithstanding, my main problem with Jeff Bezos is just that I think he's a giant dork trying to masquerade as Lex Luthor. That's really my problem with Jeff Bezos. That's it. I know the CIA and In-Q-Tel were heavily involved with Amazon, as they were with Alltech, but whatever. Let me point this out. You got all these leftoids, and they'll go, well, you shouldn't take the side of billionaires. Jeff Bezos made me richer through my 401k. What have you done for me besides smell like patchouli, have a shitty sense of humor, generally not know anything about the goings on in the world, and annoy me? So it's like, yeah, if it comes down to it, who am I going to side with? The dirty wannabe hippie who has no life skills? Or the billionaire who I can just look at my 401k and go, yep, Amazon, harvesting those capital gains inside of my index fund, making me money. Yeah, what? Like, who do you think I'm going to side with? Like, but yeah, that's pretty much the rally cry of all these people. Like, yeah, the government. I'm like, I just sit there and I go, when has the government ever been good at anything? All we do is lose wars. Personally, I think that's actually by design. I think that the reason why we lost in Iraq and Vietnam is that the whole goal of the war was suck as much money out of the taxpayer to the military-industrial complex as humanly possible. Yeah, it's do you hear in England that ninja swords will be banned this summer? Yeah, I heard that. That's because, so, England got taken over by what's called, the term for it is Fabian socialists. Now, Fabian socialists are the people that believe voting in socialism. You got your Marxists that believe in, revolution. Fabian socialists think that you should just vote it in and turn up the pot slowly on the frog. Okay? Now, the hallmark of every authoritarian or totalitarian regime is always going to be to disarm the public. Okay? Now, they'll always sell it to you under the auspices of them protecting you. But look at Keir Starmer. Do you really think Keir Starmer is capable of defending anybody. I mean, this dude's a raging pussy, okay? And then, so you have the ruling class elites, right? And they're all Fabian socialists too over there in England. If you don't know, socialism, communism locks in the rule of the elites. That's why they like it, okay? Why Larry Fink has come out and flat out said he prefers to invest in authoritarian countries because they're more stable. What he's really saying there is he can lock in guaranteed returns. The ruling class elite hates volatility in the stock market. Why? Because it allows the plebes, us, to accumulate more wealth faster if we know what we're doing. So, of course, they're going to disarm them. This is every argument I've ever had with every gun controller. I go, I'll tell you why I oppose it. First thing you're going to do, you're going to go after the guns. You know in America that guns are rights. So here's what's probably going to happen. They're going to, if you acquiesce to them, they're going to get you to the point where maybe you have a license for an over-under shotgun or a lever-action rifle. Personally, I love lever-action rifles, and they are more than adequate for defense. Problem is, I want the best tool for the job because all the criminals, they're going to have AR-15s and semi-automatic pistols. Okay. Once they get the AR-15, then they'll go after the handguns. Once they get the handguns and the guns, then they're going to come for your knives. And this is what they're going to say. We need to ban ninja swords. I'm assuming what they're talking about is a Japanese katana type sword. Yes, I know there are multiple different ones. Some bigger, some smaller, and they have different names. Okay. They're going to say criminals are using these to terrorize the public. This is what socialists do. They use the criminals to terrify the productive class into acquiescing to their demands so that they can control. They know they're never going to control the criminals. And in fact, they use the criminals. Okay? But who they can control are the law-abiding citizens. And that's what it's always about. They'll get the ninja swords, for lack of a better term. Then what they'll move on to is knives. You've already heard them talk about knife crime. Okay? So then all you'll have is kitchen knives with no tip on them. But it's not like the criminal can't buy that same knife, walk over to a piece of concrete, and then sharpen a tip onto that knife. But they know that you won't do that, and if you do, you'll be a criminal. So that's how they control you. If they could do it, the elites, they would ban martial arts. Because they just don't want the productive class to be able to defend themselves. If you're an armed populace, ultimately you can push back on the government. And, you know, if you're new here and you go, you couldn't defeat the United States government. I don't think you understand what you're talking about. Because actually how horrific it would be for the world if the United States went into a civil war. Okay. Here's what happens immediately. Fighting breaks out. There's too many people. The government can't control it. They have to call their troops back, okay, to quell this rebellion if they even can. The United States economy is the engine that runs the world right now, whether you like that or not. Okay, the United States is no longer the economy that runs the world. The United States dollar reserve status collapses. The entire world breaks out into war. Everybody is fucking poor. That's how horrific it would be. The entire world would collapse. Everybody would be poor. That's why civil war is stupid, even though we're in for the Summer of Love 2.0 coming up here. they get government assistance. Oh yeah, they do. The hedge funds. Yeah. This is one of the reasons the Fed's interference in the market annoys the ever-loving shit out of me, is because it ruins price discovery. Okay? And, oh no, securities and equities are down. Quick, flood money into the market, But it's like, if you just let the market do what it does, all of us plebeians would get richer as we're buying our index funds when they're down. It's you didn't see that lady who has a new Range Rover and she's mad at trying to sell it, or she will lose thousands in food stamp. Yeah, well, bro, the whole thing is weird. Because you had the AMA, right? The American Medical Association came out to defend food stamps being used to buy sugary shit and seed oil laden food. And I'm just like, all right, look, at a certain point, we got to define what this welfare thing is. I don't know what the right answer is on this. Forcing people to not buy soda, the sugary drinks, whatever. I just thought, when I saw that it was pretty obvious that the American Medical Association was hijacked by the food companies. They're literally sitting there defending sugary drinks. Now, a sugary drink maybe a couple of times a week isn't gonna do anything bad to you, okay? It's like having one beer. It's not gonna hurt you. But a lot of the poorer people, and again, I don't like telling people what to do with money. And I don't know what the right answer is for welfare. I will throw this out. You're gonna have a certain number of people that are just unproductive for whatever reason. They're dumb, they're lazy, terrible childhood, injuries. I don't know what the right answer is on welfare. But I do know that if a woman's driving a Range Rover on welfare, there's a problem there. But I don't know how I feel about telling people what they can and can't eat, because again, we get into this problem. Both the right and the left have it. Legislate my version of morality on everybody else in society. I tell people all the time, and they get mad at me, I will not in any way support the drug war. So that means if you put me on a jury and you got busted with drugs, I will vote not guilty. It's called jury nullification, if you're aware. But yeah, but I kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there. But yeah, the American Medical Association was hijacked by special interests, and this is the government in general. It's always hijacked by special interests. And then they have the weight of the state to put its knee on your nutsack and force you to comply. Bunch of drunk losers mooching. I'm sure, like anything, there's a percentage of good that welfare does. What percentage is that? As Elon said, is it 5, 10? Is it 1%? I don't know. In this day, I mostly see people on social and compare the stock market. Yeah. No, that's what they do. They use the stock market as a proxy for the economy. And again, it's just not the case. Personally, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, right? And I don't think this is outside of the realm of possibility. I think the government began to notice some problems in the economy in the late 90s. with the retirement of the baby boomers. Now, the velocity of money started dropping after after baby boomers started retiring in droves. I've often wondered, on top of the other political pressures that there were, I've often wondered if the project for a new American century was dusted off so that the United States government could inject massive sums of money into the world economy. Because one of the biggest fears you have when you're the reserve currency is the velocity of money. If it starts, all economies have that. But if it starts dropping, that's a major problem for the reserve currency. So I've wondered about that. But yeah, it basically goes back about probably 30 years. That's when, before, in like growing up in like the 1980s, you never heard about the stock market unless it was like a major crash. 1988 or 87, whatever year that was. But now, I mean, everybody's a fucking stock guru at this point. Every fucking Momo who's on Robinhood is sitting out there giving their, I use a modified Warren Buffett. I use a modified Warren Buffett way of investing. Like, bro, you don't know how Warren does it exactly. I don't know. I have my ideas. I think what he does, I've explained numerous times on this channel. But yeah, what's going on, Peter? Can't afford to have 3 kids, but don't want JD Vance to call me a childless loser. Tough choices. Pretty much, that's where you are. And you know, look, the elites at a certain point, liberal economic order, Europe, America, Australia, New Zealand, liberal economic order, I think a while ago, realized there was a problem. And their assumption, you saw this under the Biden administration, was, again, they could battery farm migrants. I mean, it's ultimately the goal always of the wealthy to have a slave class. And then I think they thought over time they could bribe these people, turn this into a one-party Democrat state. Problem becomes, you can only keep these free gifts going for so long before it implodes. So then you got to bring in a new crop of people. And then the cycle would just repeat and it would destroy the countries. But yeah, maybe the people at the top should have looked at maybe breaking up the nuclear family wasn't actually the best idea in the long run. Because I'm just telling you, most of the people on Wall Street, most of the people look at the stock market as, you know, short-term gains. What can I get in the next 10 minutes versus 40 years from now? And that's one of their biggest problems. What was it? It's Steel Co. Yeah, dude, I'm basically, there was a time where I wasn't doing well in my early 20s and then I joined the military. But basically, my first job was 14. And I really don't understand at this point why there is so much contempt for work. What are you going to do? It's like, is a well-lived life. I smoked weed and I sat on the couch all day, doing nothing productive. Is that the life you want? Somewhere along the lines, this liberal way of thought just permeated society. Oh, don't go out and get a productive skill. Go to college and get yourself a degree in indigenous lesbian scissoring technique. It's not important what skills you get. It's just important that you go to school and you have a piece of paper. You know, and that idea has fucked up the economy for at least 40 years. You have people drowning in debt because drowning in debt, worthless degrees, can't pay the debt. And then the taxpayer has to come along and subsidize these people, pay off their loans. You know, it's just the economy has been socialized to death. And that's why I'm a fan of what Trump's doing. Got to shake up the system somehow. Be like Musk. Have 12 kids. Bro, if I was a billionaire, I would have like 12 kids. Why not? Right? You got the money to pay for them. Right? Dude, if I had Elon Musk's cash, I would just be blowing it into thoughts all over the internet. They'd be like, dude, he's a billionaire and he's got like 30 kids. Like, yeah, I got enough money to pay for him. And it told me he has 4 kids. Jesus Christ. How does he make ends meet? And because he had 4 kids and keeps popping them out because his lady gets assisted. Ah, there it is. That's why. But in the end, man, look, I think we're kind of coming into a new world. And, you know, despite what the eugenicists like Bill Gates have to say about things, the world needs more people, right? Population decline is actually the biggest threat to our civilization. So I don't know. Is there going to have to come a time where this is subsidized? I don't know how you do that. Maybe you do that through tax breaks. Personally, I think we should just be taxed on 20% of our income, a flat tax across the board. Corporations, businesses don't pay taxes, and we just go on. But, oh, corporations and businesses don't pay taxes? No. And then we can pay for what we can pay for. We need a military, probably have to have a military patrol in the high seas, so we probably still need this military-industrial complex. Sorry, Medicare, Medicaid, if we're going to do that, that should only be for seniors because they've retired. There's no bringing in migrants and putting them on Medicaid. Social Security, you're going to have to fix that. People are going to have to accept less. Sorry, it is the way it is. Because we are headed towards a fucking shit show. And she doesn't have to work. Free housing and insurance for each kid. Yeah. But, dude, there's no such thing as free housing. It's free to them, but it has to come from somewhere. Somebody's labor is involved. It's like, my sink broke, because I had to tell my husband to stop coming inside me because we have 8 kids. So he started coming down the drain and it stopped everything up. So yeah, somebody's got to come out and fix that. So nothing is free. Let it keep dropping. I got stupid cash right now. Yeah, me too. I want it to drop, dude. I want it to drop. I want the S&P to drop into the 2000s. It's like, then I'm just going to take the cash I have if it hits the 2000s. Boom, all into the market. I've basically doubled my money because I sold out at a price to book of like 5. I think I sold out somewhere like around, of the S&P and everything, around 5,200 or 300. And now I am dollar cost averaging in another account, but it is what it is. Curious, what's your thoughts on commercial banking? Well, a lot of times you got to pay attention to your price to book on banks, but to be honest with you, I still think a lot of these banks have a long way to go. I really do. We'll see what's going to happen, but yeah. I would just wait on a lot of stuff. If it's I would just, personally, this is what I would do. You got some cash on the side. Just keep dollar cost averaging into your tax advantaged accounts. And just wait and see. The past 5 years has got people in this, I got to be all in the market all the time. Right now with the Trump tariffs, we don't know how this is going to play out. That's my opinion. I'm, sitting somewhat on the sidelines and then just continuing the dollar cost average into other accounts. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. But just wait to see how this affects the banks. You might be able to get an even better deal. I forgot what exactly. He said, lady for like 6. How the fuck is that? That makes no sense to me. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that makes no sense. He was working. Free assistance. That's how he bought. Yeah, but again, bro, look at their common sense. They got to go out and buy a Range Rover. It's like, dude, I just keep looking at people. I'm like, do you want wealth or do you want the illusion of wealth? The illusion of wealth is easy to come across. You just go into debt. That's all you got to do. You rent an apartment that's too expensive for you, and you buy that car that you can't afford, and then you have the illusion of wealth. I would rather actually have a shit ton of money and people assume I don't have any money. Why? Because money draws unwanted attention to you. It's like, yeah. Imagine, right? If you had like $10 million and you got like a decent house, it's pretty nice. Looks like you're doing okay. But you got like $10 million just chilling, paying you dividends, okay? Or having virtually no money and constantly being stressed about debt. I don't get how these celebrities go broke. I really don't understand it. I could be the most famous actor in the world, and if I was going to some Hollywood party, I'd probably show up in an old beat-up car. Like, Jay, where's your Ferrari? Well, first off, I don't like Ferraris. I don't like any of those supercars. I like muscle cars, okay? Well, I'm driving this piece of crap exactly for this reason. I don't care about it. If I have a really nice vehicle, I care about it. It's dumb ghetto shit. Hey, mate, let me impress my neighbor when I don't have any money. They thought the stupid yield max would cover the margin. Oh, bro, it's great to see Meet the Kilmers implode. Bro, I wanted to see this the whole time. This guy, look, when I've told this story ad nauseum, but I'm going to tell it one more time. This is a quick story. When you looked at Jeremy's testimonials, there was an old woman, and there was a lot of old people on there. And this old woman is talking about how she inherited $100,000 after her husband died. She didn't know what to do with the money, so she went to a bank. And she said the money was going down. Personally, I just think she didn't understand stock market fluctuations. She signs up for Jeremy's course, pays him what at the time was thousands of dollars, probably $20,000. He puts her in Tattooed Chef and all that bullshit. They lose all their money, and this woman has no possible way of making this money back. If you're younger, it's an even larger sum of money just because of the time value of money. But you can work your way out of that. This woman has no way to, and that money would have augmented her lifestyle in retirement very well. Think about $100,000, you're getting a 3% yield. You take that money, an extra $3,000 a year. If you're living on a fixed income, that really helps you. They lost all their money. And at the time, I was just sitting there and I'm like, this is actually sick. The advice you're giving these people. But, yeah, I have been hoping the grifters get their cheeks clapped for 5 years. That's why I'm hoping we're finally there. Because I want destruction so these grifters are wiped away. YouTube is just awful for finance. You think greed is killing America? I also think that corporations are making it hard for the average person to make a living, so people gamble in the stock market. So, I've thought about this, and I think corporations do dirty shit, and it is what it is, man. There's always greed within the system. Greed is a normal human emotion. I don't know how you get around that. There's always going to be greed as long as there are people. And even animals are greedy. But again, I would go back to, when you call something greedy, what's your fair share of what others produce? Now, where am I going with this? Much of our modern life of convenience in America, and yeah, there's the excesses. Okay? I get that. So I'm not saying this is a perfect system. There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. But a lot of us live very well because of these corporations. So it's like Walmart. Behold the horrors of capitalism. If I want to buy a fan, I just need a fan for my room. I was up visiting my mom in Ocala, where they stay for like 3 months out of the year. I'm up there. I need a fan because I have tinnitus. My mom and I would just walk into Walmart, I buy a fan, and I walk out. This is the modern corporations. They're doing this. And contrary to what people would tell you, wealth is not the amount of money in your bank account. Everybody in Soviet Russia had money. Wealth is goods and services that are available to be purchased. So, in the Soviet Union, they had money, but yet they were still poor. Why? Because they had no goods and services to purchase. Okay? I don't know if I'm making the best point here. But what I'm saying is, these corporations, man, the biggest input into the price of the things that you have is actually, well, one of them is human labor. So we go, we need to raise the minimum wage to whatever. Look at what they're doing in California. Raise the minimum wage to like $20 an hour. And, you know, all of these Fabian socialists out there go, well, these people are paid more money and it's put out into the economy. You're assuming that a business can keep on the same number of people. This is the entire problem with the minimum wage in general. And people would call that corporate greed, that they want to pay somebody less than what they want. But here's the reality. The business owner has to make a profit on your labor. So that goes into paying them. Walmart would love to, if we had this world, have a bunch of the most educated, intelligent, thoughtful people working as customer service reps inside there. The problem is, the most educated, motivated people demand a higher salary. That's why they're not doing those jobs. So you have to look at it from that point of view also. It's like you go into an employer, hey, I'd like a job. All right, well, for this particular job, I can pay you $10 an hour. Well, that's not enough money. Well, that's what I can afford to pay. And so all you're going to do when you keep raising the minimum wage is kill business. And we got ourselves into a bad situation. I don't know if you know the origin of the minimum wage. In the Jim Crow South, It turns out people like money more than they like racism. I don't know if people knew that. Okay? But in the Jim Crow South, blacks were actually hired at higher rates. Why? Because they were willing to work for less money. So then white people got pissed off. They instituted the minimum wage, and there you go. Black people then were let go. Okay? I mean, that's a bastardized version of how we got some of these minimum wage laws. But in effect, because it's like, you look at the pay disparity argument. All right, let's say I have a business, and the job can be performed at, let's say I have a job I need done. A woman can do it 90% as efficient as a man, but I can pay her 70% of what I could pay a man. Well, what would happen is my entire workforce would then be made up of women. Why? Because they're demanding a lower price for their labor. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, there's greed, but everybody needs to look in the mirror. We just got done talking about the stock market, how everybody wants their stocks to go up, but yet, you know, you're sitting over there and, you know, you're demanding the highest return you can get, but, you know, so I don't know what, I don't know what the right answer is, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't think, well, again, we have to define greedy. You know, if I go into a gold mine and I mine all the gold and I want to keep all that gold for myself, am I greedy? Well, there's a certain streak of progressive communists that would tell me that I should want to give some of that away, you know, for the betterment of the group. And I'm going to look at you and go, motherfucker, I went in there and got all the gold while you sat on your fucking couch, fingering your asshole on OnlyFans and playing whatever stupid game on PlayStation 5 and smoking weed. I don't owe you anything. It's funny that retail investors never invest in banking, or maybe most don't understand it. Most retail doesn't understand anything. They just buy. That's why I keep calling them Pavlov's dogs. Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. Yeah, that is part of the problem with a DFC. I don't even use DFCs anymore. Like, I generally look at your price to operating cash flow and your price to book. Now, most banks, the way I understand it, I could be correct. If you're looking for a deal on a bank, you want to get them under a book value of 1. So, but again, guys, just wait. I think if this is it, and I hope it is, it induces a panic. This is a great buying opportunity. I think people feel screwed. Some of them do, but look, if you're panic selling, that just means you didn't do your homework. You know, like, if I had made a ton of money on, like, Nvidia stock, I would have already sold mostly out of it. I might keep 0.5% because I know it's overvalued, just in case it wanted to get complete. I don't know how Nvidia could get any more irrationally overvalued than it was. But yeah, if you're doing your homework, you know that certain stocks are overvalued. You were selling, you were taking profit in your portfolio the whole time because you understood proper portfolio allocation. I don't really have a lot of sympathy for people on, oh, the S&P is dropping, I'm going to sell out in my 401k. Well, why? Well, because it went down. Okay, dude, you haven't done your homework. That's the problem. seeing Ron Paul on YouTube more and more. Well, Ron Paul was right about a lot of things, but I think a lot of these currency guys are getting the timeline down, or getting the timeline wrong on when we're going to hit a debt crisis. Personally, I think the entire world, not just the United States. You look at China, its debt is, I know GDP, I just went off on a tangent, but we'll use it. China's indebted about like 350% of GDP. Japan's like 250%. China financed most of its growth through debt. Europe, that economy is just crashing, turning in. What they basically, the European Union has done is just sponge off the German economy. I think all of this is going to come to a head in about 10 years. I think just, you look at the cycle, we're at the end of the 80-year cycle. I think it's going to last a little bit longer. What's going to come after that, I don't know, personally. I think we might end up with a basket of currencies being the reserve currency to stabilize things. But, whatever. We'll see how it goes. Back in the day, a regular job let you buy a house and a car and support your family. Well, 100%, but let me point this out as I was pointing it out earlier. The government of America subsidizes the housing market. Okay? So, a lot of the and also the massive regulations. I didn't know this. I'm not sure if it's 100% true, but I was watching a George Gammon video, and he said 25 to 40% of housing cost is just meeting regulations. So we have this over-regulated housing market. And a lot, in fairness, a lot of boomers were convinced that they should lock up their net worth in their houses. And they think that that is, a representation of their wealth. Oh, I can borrow against it. Again, you're still in debt. So, yeah, I mean, some of that is just artificial manipulation of the housing market. But again, I go, you know what I would do? You know what I would do if I could get away with it in Clearwater? I can't. But if I move to a more rural area, I will. I'm just going to put up a metal barn and then just park an RV in there and live inside of that. I mean, the way I look at it is I have a roof over my head, and that's all housing needs to be. The elites are greedy ones, not the people. The greed is in every population. I despise the elites, but yeah, true, Gil, not being able to make a good living. And unfortunately, no, it's not. Trump's, it's what I said at the beginning. You got to be cautious about what, Trump is not a miracle worker. He can do what he can do, but I really do think within a year to 2 years, you'll start seeing the rhinos turn on Trump. You've already seen it a little bit with Anna Paulina Luna and her crazy idea that because she just shit out a kid and, whoever got to finish inside her is a lucky dude. But she has a kid and now she thinks she should be able to vote from home and is acting like a fucking progressive feminist, which feminism came out of communism, but whatever. Well, be careful about that too, because every time people talk about a revolution, they never quite think about what comes next. Corporate brands are dumping. That's a bad sign too. Yep, your corporate bonds are, I don't know why I said brands, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. Pay attention to the insiders. What are they doing? Are they dumping shares? Because, if you see the hedge funds dumping shares, that's a pretty good sign that you might want to get out. What do you think? Couple of things. I think if you look at the idea of the liberal economic order that was created after World War II, some of it is not the nefarious things that we attribute to it. There was some good with the liberal economic order, okay? And one of the goods was we thought we could prevent wars because Europe keeps popping off into war and threatens to destroy the world, every 60 years. So we basically subsidized a lot of the European economy after World War II. And we subsidized a lot of other countries. Okay? A lot of these countries got comfortable with being subsidized by the American economy. Vietnam has ridiculous tariffs placed on our stuff. I think some of this is to renegotiate some of those tariffs. I think some of it is, I think Trump wants the market to crash so the Fed will lower rates and they can renegotiate the debt. And I think some of it is revenge. I'm just spitballing. But I think after they tried to assassinate Trump twice, he looked at him and he was like, all right, fuck you. Now I'm going to tank. Donald Trump has to know the stock market is overvalued. I just don't. Jerome Powell knows this. They all know it. And I have a tough time believing that Trump, who ran his businesses, doesn't understand when the market is overvalued. He went to school at Wharton Business School in Pennsylvania. So I think some of this is, he's like, yeah, this irrational market needs to die. So I don't know. To be honest with you, your typical economists are going to tell you that the tariffs are bad. Okay. But I don't know what Trump's end game is. See, this is the problem. If you listen to a lot of the leftoids, they call Trump stupid on Facebook, right? Trump is not a dumb man. And why if Trump was a dumb man, he couldn't have maintained his business empire. So again, I go back to, I don't know what his end game is. So in a vacuum, if nobody else has tariffs and you put tariffs on, I'm going to say that's stupid. But again, I'll go back to this. I don't know what his end game is. So in the long run, we'll have to wait and see. But most economists, most of the fucking Frankfurt School of Economists who are Fabian socialists, they would tell you that tariffs are bad, just blanketly. But I don't believe tariffs are always bad. Sometimes there's a dispute between countries. Trump is trying. He has good intentions. Yeah, I don't know if you meant to say aren't. Because, dude, we spent 40, 50 years getting ourselves in a bad situation. So, it's not going to be fixed in 4 years. Love the Weekend at Bernie's metaphor. Yeah, no, that's all I can think of with Biden's corpse. That's what I thought the whole time. I'd be at work and I would go, dude, are we watching Weekend at Bernie's with this dude? I half expect a guy to be on each side of him, and when they raise their arm, his arm goes up. And I'm supposed to believe, it's another thing. The media. It's like, oh, well, I saw this on CNN. CNN told you that Joe Biden was the sharpest he's ever been. Yeah, that's not quite jiving with what I'm seeing here up on screen. Strongman has called LaFufu. Dude, LaFufu, that's gambles. Yeah. Tariff. Shout out to InQtel. Yeah, dude, and the sad thing is a lot of times I forget the name of InQtel. But yeah, like the whole big tech, it's a psyop. Why banks are the big banks are so big today is because the government wants them big so they can control the money and the populace. It always, if you wonder why Bill Gates is buying up food, it's the Henry Kissinger strategy. Control the money, control the food, and control the energy. And you control everything. Right? That's it. But yeah, In-Q-Tel, they wanted to control everything. They were involved in Amazon. Can I prove any of that? No. But I would bet every dollar I have that In-Q-Tel was involved with Amazon at some level. You guys have no, and I think Jeff Bezos' dad or grandfather was involved with DARPA. And it's like, all of these elites that get placed, I don't believe any of them anymore. Michael Bloomberg is, one of the richest men in the world because of the Bloomberg terminal and his magazine, his online magazine, Bloomberg. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, Whitney Webb said Michael Bloomberg is actually related to the Rothschilds. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I don't believe any of the Wikipedia articles where they tell you like, oh, Bill Gates. Bill Gates his dad worked for IBM. Okay, well, I'm sure that on some level the deep state was involved with IBM also. But yeah, like all these elites, rags to riches. Zuckerberg, I think he got approached because the CIA wanted a data harvesting app, and the guy from MySpace didn't want to do it, so he sold it. They turned that into shit, and that forced everybody onto Facebook. I think that's what happened. Well, chaos favors the elites, and I don't want to live through a civil war, so let's all get that idea out of our heads. Started with the Texans, now with Canada and Greenland. Yeah. Sam Cedar, and same thinking. Billionaires shouldn't exist, but if they fund my media company, they're fine. Also, I refuse to sell my stocks. Yep. Pretty much, that's the basics of it. Yeah. Billionaires shouldn't exist, but as long as George Soros continues to give me money, I'm fine with it. Sam Cedar is just a smug bag of soy. And it's like, I wish this dude would have contact with disagreeable people in the real world where he's trying to tell them what to do. And they're like, dude, why don't you get the fuck out of here? This is predictive. Well, if it does, it does. I hope all of you are arming up. I'm about to get, I think I've decided to get a new Ruger 1022. I think I need one of those in my life. But yeah, start buying ammunition, start buying some food reserves then, because if shit gets hairy, America 2.0 is going to happen. Yeah. Predictive programming is, I know you asked skill, but predictive programming would be like a movie, right? Let's say there was a movie and they knocked down, not the Twin Towers, but there was a terrorist attack in insert city. And let's say it was bombs. And they blow up that building and it collapses. Predictive programming is putting out into the zeitgeist what you want the public to become comfortable with. So, I'll give you an example. Was the alien, the Tic Tacs, was that a distraction? Or was that getting us ready for alien contact or some other psyop that they want to pull? the drones over New Jersey and the ridiculous assertion that it came from Iran. Jesus Christ, these people are... The American public is easily psyoped. But, so it would be stuff like, you could say, we're going to create a pandemic, okay? So Hollywood, because if you don't know and you haven't figured this out yet, Hollywood is not every studio in every movie. But Hollywood is in bed with the CIA or the deep state, however you want to term it. They have been. Oh, that's a conspiracy. Is it? Well, if you want to make a military movie and you want access to the Pentagon's equipment, which for the Pentagon, that's a great recruiting tool, so I don't blame them. Like Top Gun probably put more people in the military than any other movie. So what they would do is there's going to be a pandemic. And let's just say they want to release it for whatever reason. Okay? They don't like Trump. So they make a bunch of movies about a pandemic sweeping the nation. Or you start seeing certain things pop up in your favorite show that maybe shouldn't be there. Oh, it's a comedy, but they're talking about terrorist attacks. That's predictive programming. I've been in front of your face. Subtle hints on it. Yeah. Gil summed it up better than I did. I gave it... No, they're definitely not. Predictive programming is actually a real thing. And again, a government has to control its populace. So, and if you look at what the ideal world would be, how the government would operate, well, let's just say a device was created, and this device goes on your head and it makes you compliant, and you do what the government wants you to do, because basically at the end of the day, everybody wants to rule the world, but you have to have people under control. So like the CIA, that's why they did things like MK Ultra and any of the other programs. So it's like, dude, you're just predictive programming is a conspiracy. Is it? Why? Hollywood wasn't... See, a lot of InQtel, they don't actually, in stuff like that, the deep state, they don't create. What they do is they get in and compromise it. Look at rap music. Rap music, I think a lot of rap music was infiltrated and then destroyed. Is what it is. John McPhee said that they let bin Laden go. Why? Think about the money he spent. Yep. Top brass. Yep. 100%. Give me 1 second. I got to run to the bathroom. I want to elaborate on that. Yeah, I've thought that for a while. You know, in thinking back on a lot of the Iraq War, man. And again, Smiley Butler, war is a racket. So, yeah, I think they let bin Laden go because they wanted to keep the war going. You cannot possibly tell me. And also, bin Laden worked with the deep state, the Mujahideen. They wanted to create a Vietnam for... It's like, it escapes your average person And they look at me with this weird look when I tell them the United States government created radical Islam. They go, where are you getting this from? I go, 1979, the Mujahideen we were supporting, elements from within the Mujahideen merged with the Taliban to create Al-Qaeda. Bastardized, I know it's not entirely accurate, but that's pretty close to what happened. Okay? ISIS was actually created by an operation called Operation Timber Sycamore under the Obama administration. Didn't you all think it was weird that they had all these American trucks? Didn't you think it was weird that there was a truck that was spotted ISIS was using that said, Pete's lawn service? One of them was literally, they didn't even take off the side that said something lawn service. Like, where did all these trucks come from? Oh, they came from America. Well, how did they get over there? We get fed some bullshit story about used cars being shipped overseas. Al-Qaeda accidentally fired a rocket into Israel and then apologized to them for doing it. Does that sound like, does that sound like they're not in league with us? In Syria right now, Al-Qaeda took over everything. I thought these guys were our enemies. This is absolutely hilarious. Like, where the average person cannot connect the dots. Well, we didn't know where bin Laden was. He was found like 500 feet away from the Pakistani equivalent of West Point, but they totally didn't know that bin Laden was hiding out there. Right? Yeah, we violated Pakistan airspace to go in there and kill bin Laden. What? I guarantee you there were officials within the Pakistani government that knew that they were going to go in there and kill bin Laden. The whole thing is just performance theater. And it's gotten to the point now where my eyes have "they live" glasses permanently attached to them. Where I go, yeah, that doesn't make sense. No worry, bro. I got what you were saying. Is it G? Yeah. We have important comments. I'm getting to be awakened. In Canada, they tax the piss out of us because they know we don't have enough guns to uprise. And yeah, we got lots of knife bands. No switchblades, no butter. Can't even own one. Yeah, dude. I mean, that's where it goes. And look, this is a thing with politicians that I don't understand how people can't get over this and can't understand this. Politicians are fucking liars. Justin Trudeau is on camera talking about how these hunters wanted it codified into law that you had a right in Canada to guns like they do in America, which is really not a law that you're entitled to guns. What it really is the government shall make no law. Negative rights are actually what you want. There are limitations on the government. You don't want positive rights because those can be interpreted any way. But yeah, Justin Trudeau is on camera lying to these people's faces. And I just had a dude at work do that to me Friday, where I was like, oh, you sound like Gavin Newsom. He's one of the higher ups. He doesn't understand that now I'm going to punish him for talking to me like he's a politician. But Justin Trudeau, our culture, we don't need to do... our culture includes guns and hunting. Justin Trudeau gets into office. What does he do? Bans handguns, bans semi-automatic sporting rifles, like my beloved Mini 14 and my AR-15, or what's about to be my beloved Ruger 1022 that I'm going to buy. Oh, can't have semi-automatic shotgun. There goes my Mossberg 940. By the way, I lost all of these guns in a deep sea diving accident. But yet, people believe these politicians, and they're just lying to you. They are the worst human beings on the planet. Their lives are nothing more than lies and deceit. Probably shouldn't put lies and deceit like that. Their MO is deceit, you know. But yeah, that's how you got there. And again, they will start with the guns, then they will come for anything that poses a threat. And before you know it, they're going to be fucking demanding that you take weekly soy injections. So you're just strong enough to go and do the manual labor. And then they're probably going to demand that you take certain forms of SSRI inhibitors, which I firmly believe make you more compliant and susceptible to propaganda. But yeah, that's me. I know because I was on SSRIs. Fortunately, I'm an extremely disagreeable person. But when I was on SSRI inhibitors, I had left-leaning thoughts, and that actually disturbed me. I was sitting there and I was like, oh, yeah. Society should be run by, like, the intelligentsia. We'll have the experts convene a panel. Till you realize that the experts, as George Orwell would say, some ideas are so foolish, only the experts believe them. Yeah, that's where you are, but that's how it goes. Hey, brother, if you're close to the American border, I'm sure you can find somebody that could probably sell you some property. You know, you need it up in Canada. But yeah, it's bullshit. Politicians and the elites have no respect for you. You need to understand that and just operate. And my opinion on it is, as long as billionaires are sitting over there fingering each other, you know, and fucking their underage kids on Epstein Island away from me, do what you got to do. I can't stop it. But as soon as you start telling me how I have to live, now I have a major problem with that. 2050, men are banned from working out because muscles are intimidating and conducive to aggression. Oh, bro, it would not surprise me. You have to understand this too. The elites come from a softer society. Something that scares them is disagreeable masculine men. That's why the working class is called the muscular class, and the managerial class and the elites are called the chattering classes. You see, A, B was designed. Oh yeah, capoeira. Yeah. Brazilian natives knew the port rulers would not allow martial arts. It's been done. No, I know. Capoeira. I was talking to this younger dude. Again, we're always having conversations in the sauna. And we were talking. He asked me, he goes, hey man, how old are you? I go, yeah, I'm 46. I'm going to be 47. He goes, dude, you look really good. And, you know, and especially at that age. He goes, do you got any workout tips for me? And I said, yeah, man. If I were you, I would do a shit ton of yoga, use weights sparingly, only do compound movements, and then take mixed martial arts and take a dance class. And what I actually recommended to him was capoeira. I said, you know, this is how it was designed. Capoeira is a martial art, and, you know, they disguised it as dance. But just the movement you're going to get from capoeira is extremely advantageous just in life. Knows about. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure that's out there. I'm sure of it. Like that, there's predictive programming for the Civil War, which again, make sure you got a lot of guns. Europe thinks they're tough because they know how to tax U.S. tech companies, no innovation, all their entrepreneurs, stagnant, dysfunctional society, and somehow they're surprised. The problem is you have bureaucrats running everything, and these bureaucrats, they're the ones that are authoritarian. And once you go down the road of restricting speech and all these regulations, it creates an elitist society, but that society becomes stagnant. If the United States wasn't subsidizing Europe, it would implode overnight. Fact. You know, the German economy is even massively subsidized by America because we have our military bases there. Our military bases bring in billions, while at the bare minimum, hundreds of millions into the local economy. So, yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we set up our bases like that. But yeah, Europe, they have no idea how weak they have become. And that's why you get them. Oh, you don't have socialized medicine in America? How barbaric. And you look at them and you go, we're subsidizing your entire way of life. That's a fact, whether you like it or not. Without America, you couldn't afford your subsidized health insurance. You couldn't afford your 35-hour work week. You know, you couldn't afford to do a lot of things that they do. But again, leftoids in this country don't understand it. Fuck your puts, fuck your calls, Jerome Powell has you by the balls. Yep, pretty much. Don't drink beer. Oh, I quit drinking, dude. Yeah. Life in prison. Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. One thing I have to say about the peasants, they feel too free to do crimes these days. Oh, bro, trust me. If I was the one running shit, I'd be cracking down even harder than Trump is. It's he's a fascist. Like, dude, are you out here protesting? Then it's not fascism. Doc with Alex Jones and Aaron Russo. The Rockefellers back to work. Pay taxes, break up families they didn't give a crap about. Oh, 100%. But, dude, behind nearly every bad effing idea in this country is that disgusting family, the Rockefellers. The Rockefeller drug laws in New York came out of New York City. I mean, seed oils in our food, petroleum products in everything, SSRI inhibitors, the modern medical system, the modern school system. Yeah, these people jacked the government a long time ago. That family is disgusting, the Rockefellers. I'll have a bunch of kids too. Not a Bezos, but he created immensely... Oh, I agree with that. Oh, 100%. Like, dude, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Bezos, but, I mean, that dude, like, Amazon, and even if In-Q-Tel was involved, to be perfectly honest with you, as long as the deep state leaves me alone, and I have my freedom in this country. I couldn't give less of a fuck what billionaire oligarchs do. I don't care about their private jets. I don't care what the CIA does. Why? Because I have other real world shit I have to worry about. My problem becomes when you're propagandizing me and you're doing it in the shittiest way possible. And then I have to sit around watching a whole bunch of people that I know easily get psyoped. But yeah, the leftoids. Oh, you're defending Bezos. You're not on our team. No, I'm not on your team, because most of you are a bunch of useless human beings that have accomplished nothing in life besides student debt. Jay, you mentioned, Pop, need to contribute. Get married, 10 kids, be the hero the world needs. Then, no way, dude. At this point, I'm 46. I'm broken down. Maybe if I win $1 billion and I can hire like a maid, yeah, I can hire somebody, a nanny, right? Then I would do it, but nah. I'd be like, if I was a billionaire or had hundreds of millions of dollars, I'd just be coming in thoughts that I found on OnlyFans. I'd be like, hey, come over. I'm worth a couple $100 million. If you want to have a baby, you know, I'll have to take care of you. And I'll chuck one in there. Didn't IBM make... Yes, they did. They made the punch cards. Also, I can't find this, but I'm pretty sure Prescott Bush was actually funding Nazi factories. Prescott Bush being, I believe, George, I could be wrong, but I think that's George W. Bush's grandpappy. So, yeah. Dude, all of these families, the Bushes, you know, now that the Clintons are in there, you'll see that. But all of these families, they're all related. And, I mean, it's not really a surprise because this wealthy family has a hookup. You end up here, and then they end up controlling wealth. But, yeah. Yeah, IBM made the punch cards. Or so I'm told. I get that it's expensive. I don't know what use it has. Like, seriously. What are you doing with a Bloomberg terminal, right? Again, I don't know what's going on in there. Maybe they have connections to other hedge funds or whatever. But I still have a tough time believing that Bloomberg made all his money. And like, what was to stop somebody else from looking at what Bloomberg did with his terminal and making something similar? That to me seems like a psyop right there. Like, I don't understand that. It's like what? Do you think Warren Buffett has a Bloomberg terminal? Do you think any of the freaking major dudes like Stanley Druckenmiller have a Bloomberg terminal? No, they're over there doing their own stuff. So, yeah, I got questions about Bloomberg. Fucking dipshit, anti-gun, funding every town for gun safety, loser oligarch. Oh, dude, they made Contagion. They made a bunch of movies about a pandemic. And those really aren't that old. I think, when was Contagion? Movie. I was 2011. So, but no, I believe the elites released coronavirus to fuck up the Trump administration. I no proof. I just think that. I probably could, and when I'm saying that, I could probably get out-argued by somebody on this. So I'm just throwing that out there. But my instinct tells me that's what it was. I hope so. You have a bunch of Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola loving nice people. I like the Mormons. Mormons don't bother me. They're even so cool that Trey Parker and Matt Stone made the play about them in the movie. And they said, hey, when you're done with that, come check out our religion. Look at the movie company logos, like Atlantis, it's a pyramid. It all ties into the occult and secret societies. Toronto, Ontario has, yep. Oh, dude, yeah. And is it any wonder that organized groups of people take over powerful institutions? But yeah, I've noticed that too. There's a lot of Masonic imagery in Hollywood. You can't afford, donate your sperm, genetic lettuce. Oh, no, dude. People have gotten sued and have to pay for that. I'm not donating any sperm. Bloomberg is like Microsoft, enterprise software, finance. Just keeps raising the price forever. They'll never switch. If only they were public. Yeah, but again, I don't know like what good like his software is. I would need to look at it. But again, is it doing really anything more than stock analysis? I mean, I just come on this. Oh, everybody's talking about NVIDIA. I wonder, would I want to look at that? Oh, no, not really. 35 times operating cash flow, 37 free cash, price to book value of 29, price to sales of 17. Generally, you don't really want to go much over 3, much over 4. Free cash flow, same as PE ratio. It's 20 or 22.5, comes from the Ben Graham formula. And then your price to operating cash flow should be generally half. So 11.25. But does that mean you have to stick exactly to those? No. And your PEG ratio is low. Okay? But, or I could come over here. Total assets, 111 billion. Market cap, 2.3 trillion. Smart. You're paying 23 times assets. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what the software would do that I couldn't accomplish with anything else on the internet. Columbia Pictures and the Statue of Liberty are supposed to be by the Whore of Babylon or something. Okay. Didn't know that. Mike Maloney said a mile, but they take a mile slow enough you don't notice. Yeah, that's what they do. I mean, that's why, again, here, I'm going to do these last comments and get out of here, but I'll show you this. Justin Trudeau on guns. Let me see if this comes up. 2010. All right. Let me get, we'll just use Colin Noir. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to use his video. I'm going to have to skip through a little bit. All right. This is why you never believe leftoids either. I'm telling you this right now. Okay? I'm not talking about like your average liberal guy. What I'm talking about is these leftoids, right? They will lie to you. I was friends with a dude in the military that was a total leftoid, and it was my first introduction to him. But everything was about him and what you could do for him. And if you couldn't do something for him, you were out. That's all leftoids. Leftoids lie to you. It's part of it. Like in communism, they'll lie to you. It just is the way it is. But yeah, here you go. We'll do Justin Trudeau right here.
Guns is just the first step towards taking away guns from everyone. But that's never going to happen because here in Canada we have a culture that has grown up with sense and that respects the need to go out into the wilderness and shoot things from time to time.
Now fast forward 10 years later and he's saying this.
Effective immediately. It is no longer permitted to buy, sell, transport, import, or use military-grade assault weapons.
There is no such thing as assault weapons. Let me just point that out. Assault weapon is a term thought up by Adolf Hitler. It does not exist. Like, here. What exactly is an assault weapon? Is this an assault weapon? Or how about this? Because it's got a weird looking mean stock on it. Or what about this? With a suppressor. That is that weapon right there. That firearm. The Ruger Mini 14. And I really like the Ruger Mini 14. If you don't, you don't. It is what it is. But that fires the same round as the AR-15. 5.56 or 2.23. Right? So Justin Trudeau is up there. He tells you registering your guns is not your first step. Oh, now that you've registered your guns, we need you to go ahead and turn them in. Well, you told me. Well, you know what? I say a lot of things. That's why you never believe these people. If you're ever dealing with a leftoid, you get whatever contract or whatever it is in writing. Okay? And you never actually believe them. And another even funnier thing to do is to understand that these leftoids, like Justin Trudeau, will lie to you. Why? They think they're smarter and better than you, and that you're just a stupid chud that needs to be told how to live. Okay? I mean, just look at this smug
in this country.
World Economic Forum.
To protect law-abiding gun owners from criminal liability until they can take steps to comply with this new law, there will be a 2-year amnesty period, and we will legislate fair compensation.
Now, I can see someone saying, well, assault weapons, that's different.
Okay? Yeah, and he's just going to go on to state exactly what I was stating earlier. First, they'll come for the so-called assault weapons. Then they'll come for every other gun. And then you'll be left with like an over-under shotgun if you get a license for it. So, that's why you just never believe these people. And that's exactly right there. Oh, we'll never come after your guns. Oh, effective immediately. You can't own these guns. Okay, yep, all right, there it is. Sorry, I meant Toronto police have... Oh, of course they do, but you know what I mean? It's that a lot of that imagery is everywhere. What about the medallion fund for... was it Renaissance? Yeah, I don't think... Dude, honestly, that's returns a ridiculous sum of money. And I believe it's closed. But I don't know whether they use a Bloomberg terminal. But I really don't think that they do. And thanks for the stream, Jay. Peace. And I'm going to call it a podcast on this last comment. I just want to say thank you for everybody that stuck around. Thanks for watching. It was fun doing the live stream. And I appreciate your time. I hope you guys have a great week, and I should see you next Sunday at the same time if you want to tune in. I know you got a lot of other shit you could be doing, but thanks, guys, and you guys have a great night. Again, hope your week goes really good, and I'm out.